Yes, 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 yes. And welcome back to the Rent Street Podcast, the only podcast that tells you to pay your rent. He's Eric and I'm Owen. Real quick, before we start this, there is going to be we're covering everything about this newest JJK chapter. So if you're not caught up, please leave because we will be spoiling this thing heavily. So without that out of the way, yeah, let's get into it.
Everyone, Nobara is back. She's back in the story. She's back in a big way. It was an awesome reveal. She was super clutch, and we're going to talk about it.
Yes, we are.
What a sick chapter.
Real quick, before we do, make sure you are subbed to the channel because we drop weekly podcast and daily shorts. And make sure you drop a like on the video if you want more JJK stuff. We're ending. We're ending here soon, folks. And I know we could cover every single chapter up until the end of JJK. Just let us know. But anyways, get on to it.
So, Gege said earlier this week, 5 more chapters left in JJK. Yep. And apparently we're supposed to be getting no breaks between those 5 chapters, is what we've been told. And straight out of the gate after saying that, we're seeing an end here. We're seeing an end to this fight that's gone on for so long. This conflict.
The first time we're seeing a legit end game in JJK. Like, you know, we've had some brief ones or maybe like some false ones, like Yuta taking over Gojo's body or Todo pulling up to save Yuji. This is like a huge end game. Like Sukuna is on the ropes here. He is very close to dying. And that's something we haven't seen yet. But the big thing is Nobara coming back. It's one of those reveals when I saw it, I was like, no, this is fake. And I had to double check it, and it was real because there's been so many, with JJK especially, so many fake leaks about Nobara coming back and Gojo coming back and, you know, other dead characters. It's just, it's one of those things. It's just like, it's hard to believe. But I think it's not a cop-out, right? It's not something where bring back a character that happens in anime all the time. You bring back a fan favorite character. It's like, oh, look, they're back. It's not really a cop-out here. It's a good addition back to the story, in particular for Yuji.
Especially as somebody that was left, their quote unquote like demise was left super vague, like coming out of like they weren't confirmed dead. They just like they got damaged on the battlefield and taken off the battlefield. Like that was it.
Yeah.
So there was been like the theory was like going around for so long that she was gonna come back. And then we're like, it's get too close to the end. She's folded. Like, we just didn't have time to really process it. Like, maybe we'll process it after, like, the final battle's done. But, like, what we're seeing here is, you know, a full return. And there was, like, hints at it towards the end of the last week's chapter when we saw the finger suspended.
Right.
And so, yeah, this chapter really just kicks right into Yuta and Gojo talking, which is kind of how we've started a lot of stuff here, like in this whole arc, is we get to see what their plan was going into the fight after it happened. So we get to see their plan.
I think,
it's really cool.
It's a cool writing device. I don't think a lot of anime really do that in general. It's usually boring planning stuff. The planning goes completely wrong. Main character or other strong character saves the day. We're good. It didn't happen here. And I think that's really cool because you're kind of going in wondering what their idea is. And especially with kind of a sometimes complex show or manga with JJK, you kind of don't really know what they're thinking. And it's not really like they pull stuff out of nowhere. It's just like, oh, hey, this was not really explained or it was hinted at or something. And it's just like, now it's a prevalent thing. They do that a lot in JJK and I really like that. And it's just another good example of it.
It's also been really cool to see that they've had a plan for everything. Like they sat down and they're like, if this goes wrong, here's the next best option. Yeah. They've had so many plans and they get down to this last one here and they're talking about Sukuna's final finger and what they would do with it, whether that be, you know, Rika eat it and Yuta gain the power, but Gojo's like adamant on something else. And so devise this plan. And they're like, let's keep Yuji out of the loop here as much as we can. So it's kind of like a surprise for him. So as we left off, Yuji is like in high contention with Gojo and not Gojo, Sukuna. they are duking it out, and like something's got to give because they're just going back and forth, and not really either one of them is really progressing the fight, which I think is interesting that they've been going back and forth so much without like Yuji getting like taken out of the fight or like Sukuna get taken out of the fight for any which region. They've been just really going back and forth here, like matching each other.
Yeah, for the past couple of chapters, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so we see that happen, and we cut away, and it's that finger the same way it was left off in the last chapter, and then bam! Yeah. And then shows her face with a big old eye patch over, dude. Yep.
It's so pretty sick. It's a good reveal. Like, again, I want to highlight that because that's a big thing in anime. It's just the cop-out reveal. And I think, honestly, if they bring back Gojo, it's going to be a cop-out. And I don't think there's really a point to it now, especially with how the story and the fight's going. But it's not a cop-out. And I saw some people like in TikTok comments saying it was a cop-out. It's a good addition. And it's also like, I kind of want to point out, you mentioned it's like we didn't really know. It's kind of interesting because in every single like other death in Shibuya, it was like, oh yeah, they're dead. Like Nanami was dead, or like when Toji came back, yeah, he was dead. But like Nobara was like really one of the only ones. It was like, especially even in the anime too, it was like the way they portrayed it and animated it. I didn't really see it too much in the manga, but I just thought that was interesting. And it's just looking back on it now, you just didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, so I think it's totally a legitimate use here. And dude, it had my boy Yuji tearing up on the battlefield, dude.
That's the sick thing. I mean,
tearing up on the battlefield.
I think somebody said it was the first time Yuji has smiled since like the first season, or for the first couple like arcs.
So, I mean, like we really like get to see it. Somebody who he thought was dead, who he thought was coming back after he's seen so many people die.
It's because like he thought he was the reason that Nobara got killed because he couldn't save Nobara, and he legit watched her die right in front of him. Like, and he couldn't do anything about it. And that was like, honestly, if you go back to Shibuya, I think that was like his breaking point. Like you could say Sukuna killing everybody and running around, or Nanami dying, or you know anybody, or like Gojo getting captured. I think that was his breaking point. That was when he's like, I don't care. I want to die. I don't.
That was his Franz Ferdinand, bro.
Yeah, that was his. that was his. Just it was just nothing. Like he didn't want to move on after that, and it was like his Luffy moment in Marineford after Marineford. It's just like he didn't care, and now I think it's like it comes full circle like that.
And he legitimately was going to give up after that until Todo came in.
Until Todo pulled up, and without Todo, he would be dead. He would be dead. He would have just let Mahito kill, and it's just like I don't know. It's really good writing. And I think it goes to show this like different, but also still kind of like traditional arc for Yuji, where it's kind of a traditional MC, shonen MC sort of thing, but it's also different in a couple of aspects, which I think is cool.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, like I was saying, like he's seen so many people die around him, so many people he couldn't save. And then, so he didn't even see Nobara. All he saw was the effects of her cursed energy. Coming out of Sukuna, and he knew instantaneously. And not only did he know who it was, Sukuna knew who it was.
Yeah.
And he knew he was screwed at that point because everything that sucked all that cursed energy out of him, leaving him super vulnerable, super wide open. And then, dude, Yuji just starts running the ones on him, bro.
Going.
He's like just left, right, left.
When we said in the intro, like Sukuna's on the ropes, he is. I think the narrative of Sukuna winning might be over. I think that's the takeaway from this chapter. Obviously, Nobara being alive, but like towards the overall plot, he might be cooked.
He said like he was getting hit so hard he was vomiting, and then Yuji pulled back out his delayed punches where he would like hit. And then all like the cursed energy of those punches will like go through afterwards. And then the chapter ends with just this massive, probably the biggest black flash we've seen so far, just straight into Sukuna. And so Sukuna I think he's done. I think next chapter, only half of it's going to have to do with Yuji versus Sukuna. I think it's cut and dry.
Because they have a lot of wrap up to do. I mean, the memes are great, but like Hikari is still fighting. And and they got to wrap that up. They got to wrap up. They got to have some scenes with Nobra and Yuji meeting up again.
We need damage control. We need to see like who all actually died on the battlefield and who all like just got injured and removed.
And then you gotta have your wrap up scenes if they want to do anything where it's like kind of traditional shonen ending where it's like cut forward to the future. What are some of the characters up? You got to do stuff with Megumi still.
Dude, Megumi's still trapped in Sukuna, and we got 4 chapters left.
There's a lot of wrap up left, so I think that's a good call. Where it's this next chapter is going to be very few of just. It's not going to be them fighting. He's going to pack them up. It might be a little anticlimactic, but I think it'll still be cool.
See, it's kind of weird. Like, honestly, it's kind of starting to feel kind of sad. Like, especially if you've like followed up with it as like long as I have. Like, knowing that we only got like 4.5 more weeks of JJK. Yeah. It's like starting to hit, especially after this one fight we've seen go on so long. Like now that we see an end to it, and it's like it's hitting.
It's honestly, I think it's similar to the Naruto situation where the Naruto and Sasuke versus Madara, or just the killing of Madara. With how long it's been going on, I don't think there's going to be a conclusion that's going to satisfy everybody. And just how hyped up and just how long, like, I mean, this is the longest fight by far in JJK. It's been going on for a long time. It's, you can't really have a way that's going to please everybody, and it's probably going to be a little bit rushed. But I do think that it's handled well, and I think the development for Yuji, I think, is like what makes it good. Like, because this is like, I think Yuji fighting Sukuna in this like last part of the manga like makes him a way more complete character.
Yeah, I think this was his completion, which is like something that we kind of like. Yuji's written very different from most MCs. Yeah, like he's not the focus of his show. Like
until the
Naruto,
end.
like something like
you have
Naruto is like
Naruto. It's Naruto's journey. One Piece, it's Luffy becoming king. In Full Metal, it's Ed's journey to get his brother's body back, and like it's their stories. This is the
whole world.
This is the whole world. Yuji just happens to be one of the most important pieces to it. Probably the most important piece right now, but it's just like, I think now it's like we're kind of getting to the point where it's like, okay, he's developing as an MC. He's just getting all his development later, and I think it's a reverse of it. It's like you meet all these characters early on. They all die, and Yuji has to become dependent on himself a little bit more. His arc is like being more dependent on his own self, and in turn he gets more development, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think it's a cool developmental curve, and honestly, I would love to do a video on Yuji as an MC at some point. I think that could be a really cool video we could do.
Let's wait till once it wraps up. I think that's pretty.
Once it wraps up, we could definitely do something about that, but. Honestly, I think that's how it's going to be. They'll probably do some some cut forward stuff. Like maybe the last chapter is like, usually, like I said, most shonen endings do that. Like everyone's life a couple years after this happens. Do some wrap up stuff. See who's dead. See who's not dead. What happens with Megumi?
What happens to the world as a whole?
What happens to the world? How the cities are rebuilt. How Shibuya is rebuilt. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's really a lot. It'll be a traditional ending, but traditional endings are good. Like happy endings are good, and I think people need to realize that.
Yeah, if it's anything like Full Metal's ending.
Oh yeah, if it's like Full Metal's ending, sure, who cares? That was a great ending. Or like Mobs was a little different, but it was still obviously a really good ending. But it's like it's hard to compare it, I guess. But like Full Metal's like kind of, I don't want to say the ending's like similar, but it's like it can be similar, I guess. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's how I really think it's just going to wrap up here. We're looking at by the end of next week, Sukuna's dead.
And hopefully, I don't think this will happen, but hopefully no sequel series. Let it be done. Please.
Let it be done.
Let it be done. We don't want a Boruto. We do not want that.
Unless it leaves off and they're able to write it good. But the chance of that, of them being able to write it as good as the original, is just very low. So leave it.
I don't think it'll happen. I mean, JJK is huge though, so maybe it might. Is unfortunately because money talks. But hey, But yeah, I think that's all from us. Let us know if you want us to keep doing these, if you want us to cover the last 4 chapters. Let us know if you want us to do this for other series. We could start doing this for One Piece because we're going to start seeing Elbaf soon. So I know my internet, but
I'm guessing that like a quarter of that actually picked up on the recording, but we'll find out when we post it.
Yeah.
Anyway, like, subscribe. That's all from us. Go out there, pay your rent.